Blitzkrieg.
I am the marksman.
This is Aiight So Boom. Last week we covered the first episode of Loki, and this week we'll be covering War and Peace. The first three. No, we'll be covering Loki episode dos.
No doubt.
I watched it. What'd you think?
It was cool, man. It's interesting to see how they're moving it forward.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think by the third we're going to see some real just movement, but it does take a lot to kind of build this world because there's a lot to build.
Yeah, it's the reintroduction and the rebuilding of Loki as a character. I feel like these first couple episodes, right?
Yeah.
Where it's almost like they took him back to 2012, right, Loki, and then quickly, within an episode and a half, brought him right back to where he was maybe at the end of like Ragnarok. You know?
It's a deformed version, but it's him.
yeah. He doesn't seem quite as bad or mischievous, but again, who knows? It could all be, his, sleight of hand and him being a trickster, that we're looking at him as a somewhat of a hero.
Yeah.
When he may just still be a villain, right?
Right.
Like,
it seems to be a lot
the
more
main
humble.
version could still be the villain, and maybe when we're talking about the other variants, right? The what did he call them? The lesser variants,
Right.
Maybe that's the good guy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? We don't know.
We don't know yet. It's still early.
It's really interesting.
It's still very early.
Yeah, man.
To see a character that we've been attached to, them strip him back
Mm-hmm.
and then move it forward. I don't think I've ever seen a character develop that way.
Yeah.
So it's pretty fun. Are you tuning in? Have you caught up with our first episode 1? If you don't understand what's going on, you haven't seen episode 1, please go back and check it, because we definitely were pretty detailed with that. But now we're going to do episode 2. Spoilers, we're going to definitely go into it, because there are things that we're going to speculate, there are theories that we have that we're going to move on forward with. But this episode starts in Wisconsin.
No!
Talk to me.
Before we get there, make sure you subscribe to our channel, hit the notification, leave us comments, and go buy our merch.
That makes sense.
I mean, you don't gotta buy it, but at least look at it. It's pretty cool stuff. We got Aiight So Boom shirts,
they should buy it.
tees.
They should buy it.
You should buy it. You're watching the show, like.
You should.
All right, guys, let's get into it.
No doubt. We start this episode in Wisconsin at this Renaissance fair. So it's 1985, Oshkosh, Wisconsin. If you're time traveling, all our nerds know that's when Back to the Future came out. But they were ambushed.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, I'm feeling a little less bad for them for getting ambushed. They're seeming to get ambushed a lot now.
Yeah, they're not too bright.
In groups, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, they get ambushed, and a particular time cop, C20, is abducted. Someone touches her, and you can see she's kind of mind controlled. She takes them out, and of course they leave one. The person that they leave for last to kill is usually the one with all of the lanterns on them, so she can kind of steal that energy. So they have their little fight. She actually abducts C20, which is something we find out that's new for this variant killer. They don't usually abduct the time cops. They usually kind of just leave them dead.
Yeah.
So that was a nice little scene. Now we forward back to Loki, who's actually in his own TVA office.
Yeah.
He's doing these little tutorials, which is, you could think of somebody just being on YouTube all day or whatever training modules you're used to at work.
He's got his own cubicle, yeah.
He got his own cubicle. He gets a jacket. He has this interaction with Miss Minutes, which is very interesting.
Yeah, that was interesting.
To see, what did you get from that? Did you are you a computer program, or but she's definitely interacting with you in real time.
Are you real? Like, she jumps around on the desk, and even when she jumps around, right? It's not like it's a hologram, because when she jumps around, she actually makes noise.
She's making her feet make noise.
Right? So
she's jumping on things.
It's all really interesting. I did read somewhere where they said that Miss Minutes is actually going to get her own little story arc. So, it'll be interesting to see what she is within this story. Maybe her background is not as, cutesy as we think. Maybe, It's
Right.
maybe she has a direct connection to the timekeepers. Maybe she is a timekeeper, and he's just like throwing this optical version of it out to the TVA to make them feel okay with what's going on in a way.
It's possible. She could be like a Jarvis for the timekeepers, which is interesting. They emphasize Tara Strong's casting a lot, and she's, like I said, she's voiceover royalty in that world. So I do think they're gonna do more with Miss Minutes, which is I love the way that they're creepy, scary, and nice, and 70s, like all of those things blended together. To me, I enjoyed Loki's induction scene. Like I like how nice but cold they were. Give me the TVA in that, and I'm good. So we're gonna see more of Miss Minutes later. But basically, they have a conversation. Mobius comes in, and at this time there's a jet ski magazine. Yeah. Which comes in handy because we find out that Mobius, that's his dream. He just wants to kind of ride off in the sunset on a jet ski. What are you gonna say?
I mean, that's interesting, right? Because we'll get into it, but where he is in the world and what he believes himself to be, it's not like it's nostalgia. It's something that he wants to do that he may have never done before.
Mobius.
Right? Yeah.
So, and that's and we were talking about Casey as well. Casey, they made it a point to say Casey does not know anything outside of this world.
Right. Loki says it to him in the first episode. He's like, "I'll gut you like a fish," and Casey's like, "What's a fish?"
Right.
Very strange for this at least humanoid to not know what a fish is, or to even work here in the TVA where you are monitoring all of these planets, especially Earth, and not know what a fish is.
Right. They did that very purposely.
Yeah.
So of course, Mobius and Loki have this powwow. Mobius is really trying to track Loki, but he doesn't know how. So that's the predicament that they're under. And pretty much, if Loki's not of use in this situation, what use is he? Especially if he's out here trying to foiling missions and not helping them out.
Yeah, reset.
So they have this little powwow before they go on this mission. He gets his jacket, of course. He's going to kind of carry weapons with me. He's kind of get amped to get ready to go. So during this powwow, they pretty much detail his powers.
Yeah.
Mobius starts talking about shape-shifting, illusion projecting, and duplication casting. And of course, Loki has to give them the difference, because there is a difference between him casting an illusion somewhere else or him creating a holographic image of himself moving out the way so that, and we all know in the movies he used these from the Avengers movies on. Yeah. So, as an audience member, we know. So it's interesting that they kind of did this, and I can only assume, because we know that there's been some transference powers used by the other Loki figure. Yeah. That they're kind of trying to separate these power sets.
So they're saying within this that I think what they were doing was letting us know that each variant has a certain set of powers, right? But there are certain powers that that they all have, right? Right. And so they even showed like different versions of Loki. They had like big like ogre looking Loki. They had blue Loki that looks more like a frost giant.
Like a Viking Loki, like one looked like the Mandarin. One of them had hooves, like the Hulk. The very interesting kind of variants.
One of them even had like this like horned mask that was a exact replica that I seen in the comics.
Oh yeah? Yeah. Okay, and that makes sense. And I love that. I mean, that's a comic books fan's dream, just to see these different versions. Yeah. To explain the different versions of Loki. Of course, that's going to come in handy later. But they're bringing an expert. Of course, Loki is the expert, right? So that's why he's there. And pretty much Mobius dangles this idea of, hey, if you do this mission, do it right, we'll be able to arrange for you to meet the timekeepers and speak to them. I found it very interesting that Mobius brought this up. Right. This is not something that Loki's running with anymore. Considering Mobius, and we're going to talk about his experience with the timekeepers personally, how he's making these promises to Loki. So they take this team to the Renaissance Fair. And somebody asks, well, why don't we just go to the Renaissance Fair when this happened and thwart it from happening, right? Which, as an audience member, we may be thinking the same thing. Right. right? But it has to be done in real time, and they explained it because as these timelines branch out, you have to clip it in real time just to make sure that you actually see some sort of difference. It has to be some sort of. It won't really be effective unless you do that in real time. So they kind of lay that out. So as time is moving, we can see as B15 has a graph, she can see how the timeline is getting close to the red. And when it gets close to the red line, that's when it's a lot more difficult to change and reset the timeline.
Right. It's I forget what type of like bad thing that Loki says when he's asking him what it means when it turns red or whatever, but it's not good.
Right. It's not good at all. So as time is moving, Loki kind of introduces this idea of, hey, I know what's going on. So we're kind of playing with his trust right now. Of course, B15 is like, let's go. Mobius wants to listen to him. And it was a very interesting scene as Loki's trying to just getting it in, and then Mobius kind of stops him short, like, "No, you're lying. Let's go."
Yeah, because he was stalling for time, right?
Yeah.
Or at least it seemed like we may have thought that he was. He had some plan going on in taking all this time, and then B15 is like, we're running out of time,
Right.
But it seemed like Mobius, figured him out, and they kept it moving.
The way they did it kind of gives you, as an audience member, you kind of feel Loki's telling the truth.
Right.
You're like, wait, nah, listen to him.
I mean, especially since he's the character we know best out of all of this, right? So it seemed, because that's what I was saying before, like, in watching this, it's easy to think of Loki as the hero in the story, but who knows? Like, we really don't know.
Right. Putting your trust in someone who's notoriously a liar is definitely interesting. So they leave, and they reset the timeline. And this is the first time we're actually seeing an active resetting of a timeline from on the ground. We actually see it from the TVA standpoint. The knobs turning. We can kind of see what that process looks like.
Right.
And on that last screen, we see that C20 is missing, is MIA. So that must cause a problem when you have someone leaving a timeline, that you reset that timeline and they're still missing.
Yeah.
That's obviously an issue. So we're gonna, see her later. Now we have a meeting with Renslayer. Now we're back with.
But hold on, she's not from that timeline, so I don't think that it creates a problem if you pull her out of a timeline that she's not originally from. In fact, I would believe that the TVA has set it up in a way that no matter what happens to a Minuteman, it doesn't matter.
Right. That makes sense. And I was thinking more so, if she's not there, she's somewhere else, and wherever that somewhere else is will be affected. But it does make sense that these TVA members, the Minutemen, have some sort of exemption from...
Right. Maybe within the grand scheme of time, they don't matter. And they'll never matter.
Sure,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't know. Just a thought.
We'll see. Because if they're variants, they should matter. Right? If they're variants.
If they're variants.
And that's my theory, is that they're just variants of other people.
I think Minutemen aren't variants. But I think that other members of the TVA that aren't necessarily Minutemen could be variants.
Makes sense. We'll see. After this scene where Loki almost ruined their entire mission. Let's make no mistake.
Right.
Loki wasted their time, their valuable time, and almost ruined their entire mission. They have to have a meeting with, of course, Renslayer, who did not want him to do this in the first place. This is not something that is even a fan. Nobody even wants, Mobius is the only one who wants Loki on this team.
Yeah, and her first name is Ravonna?
Ravonna
Renslayer.
I say Renslayer because, Ravonna's her name. Basically, she's, expressing her disdain for this idea.
And her comic book name is what? Terminatrix?
Terminatrix.
Like she terminates stuff?
It's a very weird 80s name. Like, I can, that's just such that's such an 80s Loki thing. I don't know if they'll even go there with her. But I love her as an actress, so we'll see.
Yeah.
But basically, they're going back and forth, and of course, they're drawing attention to the trophies on the walls. And Mobius is like, why'd you get to keep this thing that I do it on the mission?
Right. It's his stuff, really.
And she's like, nah, well, I approve the missions. So we're kind of giving more of an idea of who this person is. She has all this authority. She's not necessarily on the ground, but has this connection to the timekeepers nobody else has.
Right.
You know, she's keeping all the trophies. Who is this young lady?
Right. And they have this conversation where it's like he's talking about the timekeepers, but you realize that he's never met the timekeepers.
He definitely brings that up.
And she's like, well, they're busy. So there's so much mystery in this show, right? Like, are the timekeepers even real?
Start there.
Right? Or is it made up by one person and said, oh, I'll create this mythos, this story,
right,
that will keep all of these people in check.
Right.
I'll create this almost like a religion or system, mm-hmm. that will make all of these people believe, mm-hmm. and he talks even about belief later
mm-hmm.
on,
mm-hmm. right,
mm-hmm. that this is the way things are supposed to be, right? Who they put this cartoon in front of you and told you this is what it is, and you were just like, oh, okay, like,
right.
It's
right. They even in the first episode, he's like, so what do you do? He questioned her, and he's like, timekeepers. So what do you do? We basically do what they say. There's no real solid. These are their directives. This is what they want us to do.
Yeah.
And they seem to be very much involved in this particular case. She mentions that. Ravonna actually says, no, they're very concerned. They want Loki, they want Loki taken care of, They want to fix these timelines. So it seems like we have a lot of vagueness in their existence, mm-hmm. but these objectives are coming very loosely from Ravonna, so we're kind of loose in this regard. So we don't know what's going on. There's a pen that she's writing with that says Franklin D. Roosevelt High School, and that's something that just remember that may come in handy in the future. We know these Easter eggs aren't put. Oftentimes they're not put there by accident.
And Mobius's title is he's an
analyst. He's an analyst,
and she says to him something about what you think you're the only analyst that
He puts his cup down. Without a coaster. Mm-hmm. You gotta have coasters if you have any kind of manners.
Yeah.
Right? When you go to somebody's house. Remember that. So he puts his cup down without any manners. Mm-hmm. And you can see that there are multiple lines there.
Right.
So if that's a habit of his, then that's something that, that we've dealt with before. She tells him to put the coaster, and he pretty much mentions, hey, who's it could have been your other analyst that you
she says the rings are already there. She says something about the rings, right? And he's like, the rings are already there, and she's like, yeah, they're all yours. Like, you've put your cup there on these rings multiple times to create these rings, and now you're putting your cup outside the rings, right? So is it in your nature to be to do things outside of the norm? Or what? Everything's here for a reason, and this episode to me was very a lot of questions and not a lot of answers.
It raised a lot more questions.
Yeah.
So we do know that there's another analyst out there that we haven't seen, because I definitely mentioned it. So keep that there. But pretty much this conversation just results in Mobius getting this last chance
with Loki.
Yeah. They do not want this to happen. This is definitely outside of their normal parameters, but this is a dire situation, so you need some dire measures. Mm-hmm. So he gets the last chance. Mobius has pretty much had it with Loki. Loki's trying to like, hey, what I meant to do was, bro, we know you messed up. You tried to screw us over. I don't have time for it. And I do like how Mobius treats Loki at this point.
I like the back and forth manipulation between the two, and Mobius's ability to manipulate Loki in different ways. Like, am I doing this because I like you, or am I telling you what I'm telling you just because I know that will incite a certain reaction in you and make you do maybe the opposite of what the thing that I say. It doesn't matter as long as I get what I want, which is basically you helping me find this other Loki.
Watching someone manipulate Loki is very entertaining for obvious reasons. We're very used to him just being on top.
Is Mobius a Loki? Is he another variant? I'm just saying.
Put that on the table.
Yeah.
He's pretty much like, I'll tell you what I need to tell you.
Yeah.
Which is pretty gangster. So he sends them to the library. You can imagine a place like the TVA, whatever they're able to chronicle, they're literally able to, have everything organized from, every event in history.
Mm-hmm.
So he sends him there. It's funny that he's not allowed to get anything else, right? He goes to the librarian asks for X, Y, and Z. Librarian's like, you're getting this. This is what I'm showing you.
Yeah.
So he shows him his own files, whatever he's responsible for, whatever was a part of his world, including some paperwork for the destruction of Ragnarok, which I thought was very interesting.
Yeah,
that was a very fascinating, piece of documentation to see. You just imagine something really foul happening, like a 9/11 or something, and then you see like somewhere documented is this exact document to detail everything.
Right.
So anyway, he realizes that in all of these apocalyptic events, there are zero variance energy detected.
Right.
Which becomes a very interesting clue as to how these variants are hiding in these different timelines. So that is, he kind of brings that idea to Mobius. Mobius, they had no idea. It actually is a great idea when you think about it.
Ruins his lunch, yeah.
He ruined his lunch with some Boku. If you're old enough to remember Boku from the 90s, that was a big deal in the 90s.
I don't remember it.
You don't remember Boku?
No, I'm not that old.
Yeah, so... Nah, Boku was definitely that juice drink before,
Another reference to a food or drink that is no longer available,
right,
that the Time Variance Authority has on deck, right?
That's
because
all they rock.
We had the, was it Josta?
Josta, yeah.
Is that what it's called? The drink that Mobius drinks, and then he took the Boku from Casey.
Yeah.
He went over to his table and took it, poured it in Mobius' salad. Yeah.
And that just screams, hey, we can do what we want, and that's just power. So they realize, they kind of come to this consortium that it's all down to the apocalypses. It's very easy to hide in a cataclysmic event because of all of the death energy. Everything's being reset anyway,
right?
And timelines are being destroyed because of the devastation. Hiding in that energy space, that pocket of destruction,
because it's going to be erased anyway at that last moment. It's that all that variant energy is going to be erased anyway, so you'll never see it.
Right. So they take it to reality, and they go back in time to test the theory, because the theory is we'll start it on. I'm not gonna take it to Ragnarok, right, which is where he wants to go. We're not gonna do that on our first try. That's ridiculous. Let's do something a little smaller and kind of gear up to it. So there's a very famous volcanic eruption that occurred in Italy.
Pompeii
in 79 AD. It was Mount Vesuvius, and this volcano killed thousands of people.
Yeah, and if you don't know about it, in Pompeii, it's pretty dope. If you go there, like, you can still see the people and the buildings, encased in lava and ash, and it's like it's almost like a living monument of what happened. So
these are real historical events, and they pretty much Loki's sitting there. At first they're the butterfly effect of time travel. They're kind of huddled up, talking really quick, and we all know from time travel movies that it's not good to disrupt the time stream, man. If you're visiting the past, just chill and let things happen so that you can, do what you need to do. But of course, Loki's like, yo, the whole point of us being here is that they're about to die in 30 seconds.
Yeah. So
he kind of goes off and, lets the goats loose and, let's dance. Like, it was pretty funny how he did that.
I think that the freeing of the goats was like a nod to Thor has two goats in the comic books. Forget their names, like Tooth Gnasher and something or other. I'll throw it up on the screen. Don't worry about it. But but at at some point in time, Thor can't fly, or he doesn't have his hammer. Or when he doesn't have his hammer, he uses these two goats to fly.
They're big goats.
Yeah.
They're not like goats. They're like
He's
huge.
Yeah, they're huge. They're like giant goats. But I'll give you another like little Easter egg thing, kind of. If you finished MODOK, right? At some point in time, they go to Asgard. I
did finish MODOK.
You did?
You trying to play me?
I'm saying
I told you about MODOK.
You told me about it, but then I was like,
MODOK.
I like it, and you was like, and I thought you just didn't watch the rest.
That's right.
But MODOK has this garbage can that is a portal to Asgard, and he just keeps throwing stuff down at Asgard, and finally he gets like stuck down there, whatever.
Falls down.
Yeah. So he has to go after his son, and then there are goats all around, and some of them can fly and some of them can't. And
That's true.
Yeah, it's just funny.
That's true. I didn't even put those together.
Yeah.
I didn't even put that together. Shouts to MODOK. So they so this volcanic eruption happens, and they realize that Mobius checks and finds out that there's 0 variance energy detected.
Right.
And there's a variant right in front of him. So this is proof that his theory is accurate.
Mm-hmm.
So that's great. That's great for that. So after this, they have to go back and pretty much now the kablooey gum. Remember the kablooey gum?
Yeah.
From the first episode, the boy in the church who had the blue teeth, and they were talking about we had the devil with that blue tongue, which was Loki, of course. Now this kablooey gum, if you remember. Mobius had went to one of the time cops and said, "Listen, we're gonna check this kablooey gum for temporal energy aura."
Mm-hmm.
And the cop, he was like, "Oh, you're not gonna find anything," which is weird that he even said that.
Mm-hmm.
But pretty much they used whatever this kablooey gum is to find whatever temporal aura we can trace. We'll kind of hit these time areas to see if we can track down this variant.
Right. So he goes and gets the kablooey gum out. He realizes that it was only sold within X amount of years.
Right. It's a certain time frame that it was
that it was available. So they start looking through the files to see what extinction level event happened within the years that it was actually available. Right. And even going back before that. Just one of the things that was mulling around in my head was like, this kid has this gum, and Loki. You have this representation of Loki in the stained glass, right?
Yeah.
Red with the horns, and he has a blue tongue. To me, what I saw in that wasn't what you was thinking of as the blue tongue showing his frost giant lineage. It was more like it was a different representation of silver, right? Because he's a silver-tongued devil. He uses his words to get out of things. Mm-hmm. And then the kid comes in, the kid smiles, and his whole mouth is blue. It's the same as Loki. So I was like, is that kid Loki? Like, what is this kid doing at this murder scene? You know what I'm saying? It's like, it was very tricky to me. Like, maybe that kid wasn't what he appeared to be.
A victim.
I don't know, but I digress. Let's go back to where
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Aiight So Boom. If that kid ends up being like a kid Loki in the future,
yeah,
you heard it here first. I never thought of that. That's dope. So at this point they're trying to narrow where this Loki is, and they found a time and place where they believe they located him, right? So they take the team, and this is really where we kind of see this final showdown between the time variance team and this Loki character or this killer. So we're here now. We're in this different space. They find C20. C20 is tied up.
Wait, before that, the place is called Roxcart, right?
Yes.
And Roxcart is a variant of Roxxon, which is a company, an evil conglomerate company in the comic books, and it's used a lot in the Thor comic books, where it's kind of like an energy company, and they're like, the bad guys from Captain Planet. Like, they don't care about the environment or anything.
Right.
There's even this one time when Thor when New Asgard comes and they place it on top of, I think Braxton, Oklahoma. Is it Oklahoma?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Where
It's from, yeah.
right.
Mm-hmm.
And Roxxon is run by this guy, Dario Agger, and he actually can turn into a minotaur. It's pretty dope, really dope stuff. But I'm going too far for you guys. There'll be pictures. Don't worry about it.
But no, that is an important reference. But they find C20. Mm-hmm. She's tied up and she's afraid. She keeps on repeating, "It's real. It's real. It's real." And then she pretty much
pause. C20. She sees that it's real. SEE 2020 vision. Oh. She can now see conspiracy.
That's deep.
That is deep, man. That's what I do here. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes I get it right. Sometimes I just be making shit up.
My contribution to B15 was the Crown Heights bus.
Word. B15. That was hilarious.
No, C20 was actually
and real. I was like, yo, how's she going to feel about this? Because she's kind of big. Like, you calling her a bus? Oh! Anyway.
Not what I was saying. So, yo, but actually, after all this,
she's beautiful.
It's real.
She's beautiful.
She says she gave it away. I gave it away. You gave what away? Mm-hmm. The timekeepers. Where they are. Like, what?
Right.
So we just had a conversation about how we're not even sure if they're real.
Yeah.
And now this chick's talking about I gave away where they are.
And she's a Minuteman. How come she knows where they are and Mobius doesn't
know? That right there was one of the most confusing moments.
Yeah, just so many questions.
It ruined my theories, but not really, but it kind of did. So that was a very interesting moment because, you know, it definitely rerouted all of these questions that we had. Mm-hmm. But we have a moment where they find someone in this little store. Mm-hmm. This black man is looking at plants. Check our Loki reference in our last episode. But we do have a black Loki.
It was Blackie
all along, man. But no, they pretty much approach him like, yo, who are you here for? And
by the way, somebody said it's Loki in black. It's Blokey, not Blackie. But whatever. Anyway, it's Blackie.
That's fair. That's fair. And pretty much, you know, he B15 asks him, yo, is this you? And then approach him. It is. This variant touches B15, and now B15 has the energy.
Right.
I'm reluctant to say it's Loki, but it has the energy.
Right.
And pretty much they kind of go back and forth. So Loki is able to have this dialogue with this other version to kind of get to the bottom of what's happening.
Right.
And at one point he says, you know, he offers to call the variant Loki, and the variant says, "Don't call me that."
Right. Right.
So that's call me Randy, which is the body that happened. She had to take over at that moment. So they kind of go back and forth with this, but the plot is revealed that there are charges all around the building, and that's really what it comes down to.
He's been stealing these charges and it's having them set up to all go off at once. And we have a reveal eventually through some hand-to-hand combat that once the hood comes off, that it is a woman. Right? Gasp.
Now, the interesting part of this moment is that moment really took me for a surprise, not because I knew it was a woman, but the actual person didn't seem like a Loki variant to me.
Yeah, every female Loki variant that I've seen has black hair. And just clothing wise, I don't know. It was interesting. It was interesting.
In the comics, after Ragnarok happens, Loki takes the body of Lady Sif,
right,
and becomes Lady Loki through Lady Sif.
Right.
Now, it would have been dope because fans have been asking for Lady Sif since Thor 2.
Yeah.
It would have been dope if they were able to get that. But you know, I digress. It didn't happen.
Fire.
That would have been so dope.
If they,
without even announcing it, just she pops up.
Yeah, man.
That would have been really sick. But actors, I don't know if it's something that's just easier said than done. But this character has blonde hair. We know Loki doesn't have blonde hair,
right.
And that can seem very minor to you, but these details do matter. And there are other things in play. So whether it is or it's not, this is the person, the individual that's been responsible for all of these deaths and all of these this current plot of now when these time capsules go off.
Right. They each go to a different time or place and create new branches of reality, diverging from the sacred timeline and causing madness.
So basically, they did a
Say it with me. Madness.
They did a dope job of showing the multiverse of madness, the concept of what a multiverse of madness looks like, and we saw in real time. You know, all of these bombs going into different places and times. We'll do exactly that.
Yeah.
Exactly that. So that was pretty well done. Yeah, man. How did you feel about this Lady Loki reveal? You know, this last segment. How did you?
At the time, in watching it in real time, I was like, okay, let's see where this goes.
Yeah.
I wasn't like, whoa.
Yeah.
I was just like, all right, let's see where this goes. You know. And I think seeing the branching off and all of these timelines being recreated was more exciting for me than seeing this character that I kind of knew was coming but didn't think it was going to look like that. I guess. Yeah. And then I start thinking about all of these timelines being created and what that could mean for the grand scheme of, the Marvel Universe. So,
how deep are they going to get into these timelines?
Right. And, are we going to have a new multiversal war? And if so, do you pick champions from each one of these to see which ones stay and which ones don't?
War?
Like a secret war.
Are they gonna have secret wars in the Loki series?
I mean, it may be the jumping off period, but I think it could be the jumping off point because we know that there is some multiverse stuff going on in Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Obviously, in the new Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
I think this is a big segment of what this phase of Marvel is going to be is like the multiverse section, the regular just space section, and then the groundwork section.
What's crazy about this Blitz is that Secret Wars they haven't even started Secret Wars yet. I think what they're doing now is really, they're showing us what's in the Secret Wars is going to whenever that happens, it'll be explained with this,
right.
I believe.
And which Secret War do we get, right? Do we get the 80s Secret Wars with the Beyonder and all that stuff, or do we get the more current one that happened a few years back where, Doom decided to make this place called Battle World, and it was there were these incursions where all of these different realities would be were colliding with another one, and then one would be destroyed and the other one would stay, and then Doom was like, he got his hand on, I guess it was the Infinity Gauntlet, it might have been something else, but he became like god of this world called Battle World, and he just like crunched up little pieces of different realities all together, and there was like the Thor Corps, and so they were the police, right? Wow. And there was like Strange Land over here where just like really weird stuff going on. It was crazy. So I would think that would be the version that we're going to get.
I gotta read Secret Wars again.
Yeah,
it's been so many years.
I mean, the first one is, it's nostalgic, but it's like it's silly. But the newer one,
right? I haven't read the second one.
Right, the newer one. It's actually a third version. There was another one that was like espionage, but nobody talks about that. It's like Nick Fury and Wolverine and a whole bunch of other spy characters. But this one where they created the Battle World, that was a pretty good comic, and I think that when Bendis came on to Marvel and a lot of other writers came on, I think that they knew that they were writing not just for comics, right? Because Bendis started the Ultimate Universe, and most of the Ultimate Universe is used within the MCU. And then when he worked in it, and then in fact in that is how they brought in this new Secret Wars, right? There was an incursion and the Ultimate Universe was destroyed, right? And they took the best things of that universe, Miles Morales, and brought him into our reality, the 616. Right? So how do we get the things, Spider-Man from Sony, and the X-Men now or whatever, get all of these things all together, right? This is an easy way to do it, or a cool way to do it that is nostalgic in the way that it brings you back. It ties into the comic books.
By the time Secret Wars happens, who knows?
I could be totally off, people, but this is what we do here at Aiight So Boom.
But the beautiful thing is they're able to. In real life, we have actors with contracts and situations, and then we have a story that they're trying to do. Mm-hmm. So I'm very curious how those two are going to converge, bro.
Yeah,
because they've created a vehicle to have Sony do whatever the F they want to do, but create a multiverse where it makes sense to pull somebody from A to B. That's brilliant.
Tyrese is in Morbius, not to be confused with Mobius. Right, he's in Morbius.
Jared Leto star is Morbius.
Yes, the living vampire is Morbius. Did I say that right?
Morbius. You're right.
And they're saying Tyrese slipped in an interview and said, the movie, we finished it, whatever, and it's going to totally tie into the MCU. Now,
I'm glad to be on YouTube. Tyrese, shut
up.
The fuck up. Shut up. Like, generally speaking, in all areas of life, shut up. I'm glad to be on YouTube for that. Oh my God.
But
they shut him down immediately.
Yeah.
He released that and they released a statement minutes after. Like, shut up.
You almost cost Dr. Dre $1 billion.
Dude! Anyway, we're getting started.
Let's move on.
No, but that's real though. I mean, they've created these vehicles that they can use or not use. Kevin Feige's like, listen, let's just play it by ear. Mm-hmm. Have all this power. So I'm very excited to see how this Disney Plus show is really starting to have some major ramifications.
Yeah. And the implications are huge for where they go with it, or if they didn't plan on going someplace, now they can look at this and be like, you know what? Right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, and just
Kevin knows.
Yeah.
Kevin's like, we can do this, or this. We'll just open it up.
Kevin always knows. He's the beyonder.
Feige, you get my email. We want you on the show next week.
Please.
Yeah, man. That's this episode. Mm-hmm. If you watch this, if you agree with what we're saying, if you don't agree with what we're saying, leave us a comment.
I'm not done. So, when Loki was in the library, and looking through these papers, right? Okay. Again, the devil is in the details, and the details is in the paperwork.
Amen.
And he's looking through the papers, and I mean, this is not something I found on my own, but I know about it now. He looks at one of the papers, and on the name of a variant is
drum roll, please.
Lafidati, comma, Sylvie, right? Now, you go to the end credits and you see that the character that we see as Lady Loki is not named Lady Loki in the credits. She's named Sylvie, right? So, this Sylvie Lafidati is probably that person.
Yeah, that we saw.
That being said, Laufey's son is Loki's last name.
Right.
But it's not a last name because in Asgard, they don't have last names. Right. They take the name of their father and then they put son or daughter after it, right? So Thor is Thor Odin's son, right? Because he's the son of Odin. Loki is Loki Laufey's son because he's the real son of Laufey, the Frost giant. He's not the son of Odin. He was taken in by Odin, but he's really Laufey's son. So if she's Sylvie Lafidati, she's Laufey's daughter, which would mean that she might not be a variant of Loki. She's actually Loki's sister. Not done.
My God.
Sylvie is the name of a character in Thor's mythos that goes by the name of Enchantress.
Oh my God.
An enchantress in the comics first showed up where?
Where?
In Oklahoma.
Oh my God.
Oklahoma.
So Oklahoma was referenced in the end of the first episode when this variant lit it on fire, attracted some timekeepers to Oklahoma, and then lit them on fire.
And the enchantress is a blonde, whereas whereas Loki, Lady Loki, is usually has a brunette. She has black hair.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think there's a whole lot of misdirection going on here, guys. And I hope I didn't spoil anything for you. Spoiler alert, late.
Luffy Dawden. We like to party.
Yeah, so
that's where I think, I was definitely jarred. I didn't think that Lady Loki was Lady Loki. Yeah. So stay tuned to Aiight So Boom. Just remember where you heard it first.
I mean, guys, we also know that this is the Loki show. He switched dates from Sunday to Wednesday on us like that, right?
Yeah.
This could all be misdirect to us, and we have no idea what's going on till the last, 5 minutes of the last episode, right?
Right.
Who knows?
But definitely follow the story, because I think we have a lot of enough pieces firmly grit that we can follow this all the way through.
We're good.
We expect more action next time. I think we're gonna see some things happen next time.
Yeah, I think there'll be more action in the next episode. I did like the character development of this one, but there were a lot of spaces where it was like, oh, they're just talking, huh?
yeah. As far as rewatchability, those dialogue moments, I think are built to build the story. But I think hopefully we kind of move forward from that and really get to some gritty.
Yeah, but pay attention. I think it's definitely rewatchable just to see what the dialogue is actually saying. You know what I mean?
And because they are using specific events, like if you go to that monitor where they were looking at these timelines. It is nerdy, but they're literally going through Titan. They're going through different storylines we've seen in the MCU.
Yeah, they show Nowhere, which is the celestial head that
Guardians of the
Galaxy. They do show Titan. They show definitely specific places if you jump down that rabbit hole and look through all of that stuff. It's definitely one of those shows where I like that the writers of Marvel shows realizes how nerdy the audience is and really is going ham with the Easter eggs.
Yes. It's an art form.
And the misdirects. I love the misdirects. I want to be pleasantly surprised. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to know everything.
Tiana Paris, Monica Rambeau with the engineer, that changed me. That changed me, Blitz.
Yeah, Mephisto,
I would have bet money. If we were betting, I would have bet everything I had that it was somebody.
It was literally nobody.
It was literally, the director's like, no, it was just Pam.
Word.
So that was, I'm definitely traumatized from that, and I'm not going to jump into things head first moving forward.
But it is fun to speculate. That's what we do.
Of course, man.
Yeah, man.
This is the show.
Guys, this has been Aiight So Boom. I am LR Blitzkrieg.
I am the Marksman.
Make sure to subscribe, hit the notifications, leave some comments, tell your friends, buy our merch, and don't be like Batman. And, eat cat. Peace. That's it.